in unemployment to their barest minimum. We're going to be doing this through the eyes of the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. It is the first edition of the show this year, and I am glad to tell you that my guest on the show this morning, I will certainly introduce her much more later. But on the show this morning, we will be focusing on what lies ahead of the agency saddled with the responsibility of creating jobs within Lagos. What lies ahead of them this year, 2026, what Lagosians should be looking forward to in this new year. As a matter of fact, in a matter of 5 years, I think this program has been running for about 5 years now, they've done a whole lot in terms of, grant, loans, trainings, you name it. Everything tailored to it, empowerment is all about, is what LSCTF is all about. My name is Taiwo Baruwa. Good morning and welcome. Yes, the program is brought to you to the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. And certainly, if you can keep it locked down here from now till about 11, certainly you will be getting info as regards how the agency will be taking things to the next step this new year. Quickly, let's tell you that the roads are looking very okay, but within Ibauto Ijaniki, there is a truck with mechanical fault at Paku on the main carriageway in Wadokokomaiko along Badagry Expressway, and the backlog, I understand, is around Alabarago, but the traffic managers are there doing what is expected of them. Another impediment is a truck also at Okiafa in Wajakonde, NNPC, but not affecting the flow of traffic. Okay, so when I said earlier that I will be introducing my guest on the show much more later, I'm sure you must be wondering, okay, so do we have the governor in the house? I mean, he doesn't have to be everywhere, right? But then there are people, right, positioned to manage some of these agencies because the governor cannot be everywhere. My guest on the show is Feishayo Alayonde. She is the Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Good morning to you, Feishayo.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's an absolute pleasure to finally have you talk to Lagosians this morning.
And can I say Happy New Year again to you?
Yes, it is allowed. Even till July, we can keep saying Happy New Year. Oh my God. All right, then it's good to have you in the studio.
Yes, thanks for having me.
All right, job creation and employment is a part of the 6 strategic pillars of the Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu's administration. And in achieving this, for those who are familiar with trends in Lagos, you would know that the Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development to do a whole lot, and of course the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, so as some other agencies also. But this is Accelerate Lagos, and the program is brought to you courtesy the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. So we're going to be focusing on everything Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. And today, like I said earlier, we have in the studio the Executive Secretary of this agency. To start with, Feishayo, we're focusing on scaling impact, leading change. What is this all about? Leading change? Are we changing the dynamics of the agency, or what is this about?
So it's basically saying that putting our beneficiaries, people that benefit from our programs, at the core of what we do. Whereby, yes, we are an impact-driven organization.
True.
But we also know that we need to move with the times. What's relevant today, we need to make sure our beneficiaries are actually plugged in. We need to make sure we're equipping them with the right tools to actually deliver more and for them to scale in their businesses or for them to secure a job. So it's just saying we're not just doing impact work for the fun of doing impact work. We're actually making sure that we're making that difference in the lives of the people we touch every single day.
Good. So let's talk about mission and relevance. What is LSCTF's core mandate. And why is it even more critical for Lagos in 2026?
2026 or
As we
2016?
2026,
Yes.
as we navigate economic uncertainty and rapid change. There's a whole lot going on in Lagos. You have the Ministry of Agriculture doing its thing. We have the Ministry of Women Affairs doing its thing. Youth and Social Development also, all empowering the youth. Tell me, what makes LSTF different?
Yes. So I don't even think it's what makes us different. It's just saying how are we also supporting the same members of Lagos State and residents of Lagos State. Honestly, it's not a different thing. It's just basically ensuring that our target audience, simple, everyone in Lagos State, but it's making sure that anyone that needs the support, whether on the entrepreneurship side or the non-entrepreneurship side, they can come to us. We enable the jobs to be created. But we also acknowledge that not everyone is caught out for entrepreneurship. So we also support job seekers to upskill, reskill, and then get a good chance of being employable and retaining a job. So that's pretty much what our mandate is enabling the creation of jobs and wealth in Lagos State for every resident
Wealth creation,
in Lagos.
every resident in Lagos. So 2025 is one sentence. In one sentence, if you were to describe LSTF's 2025 journey, what would it be? And what does that mean for 2026?
It was a transformative year for LSTF in terms of our programs. We're actually able to plug into so many more partners, both on the private and public side. So we almost redefined what collaboration looks like.
Sure.
And this year is going to see a lot more than that. And it just means that it's our 10th anniversary. People are looking to understand what next. So 2026 is a redefining year in understanding our relevance in Lagos State and being that true supportive partner for residents that need that employment support.
All right, then. So 2025 wins and momentum. Looking back in 2025, what were LSTF's defining wins? And more importantly, how are you building on those to scale in 2026?
Thank you. So, I started talking about some of our programs where we actually engage some partners. So we had some good programs with private partners in the construction space, for example. And it was a good one for us because we actually were able to empower female tilers, so women in the construction space, train them, and at the end of it with the partner, able to give them tools to get them to actually work in the constructive sector. And that's the sector that's pretty much male dominated, but we're able to prove that women can be upskilled to be able to take part and play their role in that sector. In addition to that, on our loan program, we actually were able to lend a lot more this year, give about 3,000 loans over 3,000 loans in 2025, which was pretty much double what we did the previous year in 2024. And what was key about that is in our collection rate, i.e., the repayment way in which we collect, we actually got 94% back. That means 94% of people in Lagos State that took a loan from us actually paid back. It's not even credit to us alone, it's credit to the residents of Lagos State as well, who now understand what it is to
be credit-worthy.
To be credit-worthy and what it means for the next step. Because if LSTF gives you up to 5 million today and you are able to pay back, it means you can walk into another organization and get more than 5 million tomorrow.
True.
Because you've proven the point that you can be trusted with funds. So I thought that was a really good highlight for us in 2025. Another big highlight was we're able to open a new hub in the creative space in Yaba. So this is where we cluster SMEs together with one of our partners called 360 in Yaba. And anyone in the fashion industry, they can go in there not needing to have any tool per se. They just need to go in there and pay a fee on a daily basis, and they can access all of the tools in there to be able to sell their business, to be able to sew, be able to be part of the fashion industry.
Yeah.
What is important is the issue of access to infrastructure is no longer a barrier for anyone in the creative space. It was the first time we played in that space that intentionally. And for 2026, we're looking to ensure we have more hubs in Lagos State, whereby MSMEs that have an issue with finding infrastructure to work either in the creative space, they can actually work from that location. We're speaking to some of our SMEs last year, and they said to us 60% of their costs is actually from, running a generator or providing power for them to run their machinery. And we said to ourselves, we need to be able to solve that problem. I mean, we're not the experts ultimately, but we can find partners that can work with us to provide that service. And that's what the hub model aims to do, and any of our other partnerships that we push for 2026.
All right, Lagos, Nigeria. You're wondering who is taking you to the classroom this morning. I have the Executive Secretary of Lagos State Employment Trust Fund with me in the studio. Should you have your questions, you should get them ready. Okay, so you can connect with me live on 0915 387 7127. 0915-387-7127. Put your calls through. You can also send a text or WhatsApp platform on 0809-9120-777. You said something earlier as part of a highlight for LSTF in the year 2025, talking about loan repayment. What was it like before 2025? And how were you able to improve on it to achieve that 96 or was it 94%?
So I think the improvement just came from how we communicate with our beneficiaries. We also call them citizens of LSTF. How we help them to understand why we ask it for certain information, and then we actually got better at bringing ourselves to them. So we use our liaison officers more. We are plugged into about 28 locations across LGAs and LCDAs in Lagos State. So we're very more intentional in 2025 to say, look, if you're not able to apply for a loan online, you can visit any of these liaison offices and you can go in and ask any questions, any clarification that's required from all of our requirements, whether it's a LASRA ID, whether it's your BVN, NIN, the CRC check, which is what affirms that you are creditworthy. So it was a lot more intention behind our requirements and all of the data that we require from our beneficiaries. But in addition to that, even with automating some of our processes in terms of how we deduct, we actually have some automation that we implemented last year that helped us to ensure that once a loan is due, we're able to collect that with the consent of our beneficiaries. So I think it's leveraging on technology and also our communication style and being more in the front of our beneficiaries. I think that's what helped us a lot. And we're going to build on that this year by God's grace.
Amazing. Well done. So let's talk about 2026, feeling different. What bold initiatives or shift should Lagosians expect from LSTF, and how are you evolving beyond 2025?
Yes, so it's interesting because I said earlier on that it's our 10th anniversary. So there's a lot to come from us in terms of showcasing what's been done and what we're doing going forward. But also we're looking to have an employment summit this year as well. So we'll be calling on the demand and supply side of labor in one room, and then just getting to ask the questions around, the pain points for those that are looking to hire, and even the pain points for job seekers. So we want to make sure that we have the right people in the room, both on the public and the private side as well. We're looking to expand our job hub model, make sure we have a lot more job hubs in Lagos State across other sectors. Our parent Ministry of Wealth Creation, opened a leather hub last year. So we're going to be leveraging on anyone in the leather space to plug into that to be able to work. They don't need to have, they don't need to buy their own infrastructure or their own tools. We're going to be a lot more intentional around clustering SMEs together to actually work from a location. On the lending space, we're going to find a lot more opportunities to lend in agriculture. We're going to be intentional about that as well. The creative space, also even looking at energy and renewable energy, that's going to come up top for us as well. We're obviously not going to stop on trade because trade is an instrumental part of our beneficiary pool in Lagos State. We're also going to be focusing a lot on women and the youth. We did some work with Ministry of Youth last year, and even WAPA as well. We're looking to replicate that this year on a different scale. So we're being a lot more intentional with our partners, both on the public side and the private side as well.
Okay, can we possibly shed more light on some of these areas you just mentioned? Say, for instance, you just mentioned the agriculture. And I know that on the show, we have hosted a couple of persons who actually thrive in that space. Are we still focusing on the fish farming, the likes of basically animal husbandry, or we are diversifying into another sector in that space?
So what we did last year was lend to farmers in the broiler scheme. So that's, chicken. But we're also now looking to expand on other value chains. And the reason for that is understanding what our people in Lagos are looking for in terms of working with the Ministry of Agric for this, so that we're lending based on what the need is and where the need is in particular. But the good thing about that, which is what I wanted to share as well, is we found a way to bring in almost like a model that ensures that the farmers are rightly supported, but then our repayment is actually guaranteed. So we plugged in insurance. We actually got to deal with an input dealer. We got to deal with an off-taker who actually confirms that whatever produce comes out of that cycle is automatically purchased at a fixed price. So the farmers are encouraged to farm as they would normally, but then they know that they have a guaranteed market. And that's one thing that a lot of our beneficiaries tell us, that it's not even always about access to finance, it's also access to market. So we actually have to work more intentionally this year to ensure that those opportunities for access to market is available for our beneficiaries. We also have some partners that are looking to work with us from an export readiness point of view, so watch out for that space. Looking to run a program in terms of what does it look like to actually ensure your product can sit on shelves outside Lagos, sit on shelves outside Nigeria, and be attractive. We're working with some partners on that, and it's one that I know that a lot of our beneficiaries have come to us with to say, we're good for people of Lagos, but why are we not good for people abroad? So that's another way in which we're going to be, ensuring that our team have a market beyond Lagos.
The shores of Lagos. Amazing stuff. All right, Lagos, Nigeria. This is the time to ask your questions, and the most suitable person to answer your questions is actually seated with me in the studio. Bring it on. 0915-387-7127 is the number to call. You can send a text to 0809-9120-777. Let's talk about some of the achievement of the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund, scaling and, of course, sustainability. You have proven the model works, talking about 4,655 trained, 3,532 loans, and 60,478 jobs created. Now the question is, how do you scale without losing quality or sustainability with this figure already?
So I think that question, there are two parts to that question. So there's us as LSCTF, and there is obviously our beneficiaries as well. And I always like to talk from our beneficiaries' point of view, because without them, there's no us. So the work we do, we work for them.
Partnership.
But from an LSCTF point of view, it's pretty simple. We're leveraging on the structure we already have. If we didn't have a solid structure, we would not be able to scale. And we're starting from day zero. Like literally as soon as January started, my team are already out on the field, engaging to understand what our beneficiaries want, and then ensuring that we can meet them at their point of need. So it's literally starting as early as possible and leveraging on the structure that's already been built. For our beneficiaries, one thing we always say is it's important that people understand that even as you are building, there's room for growth and there's room for learning. So never stop learning. We have programs that we run that are called masterclasses and advisory sessions under our business support program. And we tell people to always listen onto that, because it helps you understand that even as you've grown your business, there's still room for scale. So a classic one that we're looking to work on a lot more this year is things like insurance. Why would you start a business, take a loan, be successful in paying the loan, bought an asset, but you're not insuring that asset? So we're taking it back to beyond finance. What does an entrepreneur need to ensure their business is sustainable? And it's things like insurance, things like managing your finances, things like how do I structure my business to get more partners in? So those are the type of issues or topics that they would find on our master classes and advisory sessions. So something for people to look out for. And that's what would help them scale and be sustainable.
All right, then. Apparently, 2025 saw the agency through a whole lot in terms of partnership and collaboration. How are you deepening those partnerships in 2026 to reach more Lagosians?
Yes, so I like talking about this one because some partnerships were so organic. Like I'm speaking to you now and you tell me, oh, I'm going for this event. Do you want to come? I said, fine, let's go. And then we meet somebody that goes, you work for Lagos State. And literally from that, we realize the areas of synergy. So what I tend to do and I say to my team is, we can't go into these conversations thinking of what does the government want. We start with what do our beneficiaries need and how do we align that need to our objective as Lagos State government, but the objective to our partners as well. It has to be a win-win-win scenario. Win for the residents of Lagos, win for the government or public sector, and win for the
For the
private
organized
sector.
private sector.
If you go in with those type of conversations, you're guaranteed to get a seamless outcome from that
True.
partnership conversation. And that's what we're using to leverage on this year to ensure we secure more partnerships.
Amazing
It's not
stuff.
easy, I must confess, it's not easy. But I think we've done a good job of building that trust, that people understand that if you support LSCTF in kind, in cash, or whatever, they will deliver and they will bring those numbers home. So I'm hoping that anyone listening to me is going to call me up and say, come on, Faye, let's do this.
Nice. I mean, I'm sure someone is like listening to us right now, and perhaps even online. It could be outside the shores of Nigeria, and they are willing to put in the money, to partner with the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. So let's look at beneficiary stories that matter. What kind of transformation are you targeting this year? First, let's talk about one that you can relatively think of that was high point for the agency last year.
Yeah, so I'm almost sure I've shared this so many times, but I will never stop sharing it. So we have a program under our Lagos Innovates called the Female Founders Program, where we actually plug in and coordinate all female startup businesses with female investors, female mentors, literally making sure the ecosystem understands that women can actually be in the driving seat. And it came about, I think, a year and a half or 2 years ago with our old head of Lagos Innovate, Hakim. If you're listening to me, hi. And he was basically understanding that before we put in applications or call for applications, I would only get like 10-20% being women. So we said, okay, if we just did a female focused one, what would that look like? And we got over 200 applications. These are women that were doing good work in agri-tech, health tech, fintech, edutech, you name it. So having a cohort that's focused on all women was actually a brilliant idea. And we had some partners come on with us. Thank you for that. And the outcome and highlight for me was we had people that had gone through the program. They went first, second, or third, as in they didn't actually win any funding or necessarily win any investor. But guess what? They were able to get the mentor to actually be on the advisory board. They're able to apply some of the learnings. And somebody had shared her testimony. She'd gone from having 4 members of staff at the start of the program, which is an 8-week program, to then needing 20 staff because her business had scaled that much in 6 months. For me, that was such a big win, because if somebody is able to then go from 4 to 20 staff, it's because her business has not only been restructured, but it's now able to scale. That's the value add that we bring when we talk about the ecosystem building and being an ecosystem enabler. And that's what one of the highlights for me. And we're looking to do another cohort this year on our Lagos Innovates program, but making sure the tech ecosystem, women have a seat at the table.
Amazing. Let's look at some beneficiaries of LSCTF. When you support with loans, grants, training, and the likes, and eventually these people, succeed in some of these things, do you compel them to employ, in a bid to reduce the unemployment figure in Lagos State, or do they have to do it willingly? How do you go about this?
Yeah, so it's not a how do I put it? It's a natural next step, because if you have gone through a program of ours, naturally your business will grow and expand. And when your business grows and expands, you can't do it alone. You would need to hire somebody. But guess what? On the lending side, part of the questions we ask of our beneficiaries is to say, how many people are you looking to employ after this intervention? So we're upfront about it. And that's because it's getting people to understand that we can't shy away from our mandate. Everything we do plugs into enabling some form of job creation at the end of the day. But also, this is where monitoring and evaluation comes in. So we have a strong M&E focus and resources in the team that help us do this. So after every program, we have cycles where we go and send out surveys, interview our beneficiaries to understand, this is where you were 6 months ago, this is where you are now, what is the change, what's been an intervention, what's been the win. And that's where we get to have those answers in terms of the number of people they've employed. So it's a natural, organic development, but we do put it out there upfront to say we would expect you to obviously hire more so that this unemployment rate in Lagos State reduces even further, and getting people to understand that the matter around employment is for all of us. It's not just the government's responsibility. it's the responsibility of every resident in Lagos State, because the more people we have employed, the better our economy is and our society at large. And we're actually then able to really grow as a state.
All right. The government of Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu is an all-inclusive government.
Absolutely.
And I know that one area we haven't touched on the show is that of persons living with disabilities. Are there plans to inculcate them in some of these, your plans?
Yeah. So we did a project last year in Q4 with one of our partners again in the constructive space, Lafayette, shout out to them. And it was in partnership with the Ministry of Youth and Lagos State Agency for People Living Disabilities, LASODA. And it was a very eye-opening one for us. I think we only were able to get to 50 people, but it made us realize that we can do more. Because the sort of skills that we're able to get them empowered with is, fixing and maintaining laptops and gadgets, hairdressing, makeup. And these are people that normally the society would tell them, you can't do this because you have this limitation. But we saw so many people that were able to learn a new skill. And at the end of it, they're actually now able to work and start a business of their own. So it's not just about learning the skill, it's also giving them the tools to help them start up and be able to make a living from said skill. So we did that last year. We're going to do that again this year, because a lot of our focus is making sure that it's all residents, not just, enabled or disabled. No, that's not the case.
Good to know.
Yeah, we're looking to do that a lot more this year as well.
All right, then let's take a look at the informal sector and the underserved communities also. They are part of Lagos.
Yes.
Are we doing anything to also, accommodate them?
Yes, remember what the scenario I described where I said if you're not able to use technology and apply for a loan on your own, you can go into any of your liaison offices. And our liaison offices are in the local government areas. And literally people go in there with their documents, their paperwork. Sometimes they even say, okay, when we have our community outreaches and engagements, we go to their businesses, the markets, and we're able to actually address some of the questions they have. And you find that the people that are actually credit worthy, it's just that their interpretation of some of the requirements may not necessarily be the same. So it's just making sure that we are more visible and we are holding their hands and ensuring that they also get access to some of our interventions. And we do have the informal sector being a significant part of our beneficiary group, actually, because our loans, for example, are from 50,000 naira to 5 million naira. And we did have a majority of them fall within what we call the ME and MES, so startup loans and micro loans. Those are majority of the loans that we gave out in 2025. So yes, the informal sector, a very strong pipeline and support focus for us.
One thing that just crossed my mind now, something crossed my mind that these might be the set of people that would default the most in terms of loan repayment, given the fact that they are startups and they might struggle a bit with the business. Talk to me about, defaulters. How do you handle or respond to defaults? I mean, you recovered 94% of your loans. How about the remaining 6%? How do you respond to that?
Yes. So first thing we always say is accountability and ownership is very important, and communication. So as a business owner and a serious business owner and entrepreneur, you will typically know when there's a shortfall in your repayment or your business model for the month, as an example. So we actually say, okay, reach out to us. But guess what? We are also proactive. We tend to send reminders. My team, we have a team that engage and send reminders to make sure people understand this is what's expected at this date. And then we encourage them to come into our liaison offices if there's a need to either remodel part of the loan or restructure part of the loan. We're open to those discussions, but there's a level of communication that's expected, and also understanding what the implication is as a defaulter. So we try and close that knowledge gap with our advisory session, so people know that we have a responsibility to actually report to the central bureau where you are a defaulter, and it's almost like you're reducing your chance of more funding in future. And a lot of times, once we explain that and people understand the gravity, we tend to then get people come forward. They might not pay the full monthly repayment for 1 month, but eventually they do catch up. But I'm not going to say that we're not 100%, so we still have defaulters, but it's just working with them to understand what the issue is, why they're not able to pay back, and then leveraging on technology to help us collect.
Lagos is, a kind of city that says people move into it almost every day,
yes.
with a growing population.
Every hour.
With a growing population of over 20 million residents. But then, and with all of these things that you do at LSCTF, how do you measure the effectiveness of your trainings and your interventions?
Very, very good question. And I'm looking back at you, I'm like, oof, this question, because it has come up before. So
no, but to be honest, because when you train some set of people and then
more people are coming in, how do you measure that?
How do you even measure it?
I think it's a question that cuts across every intervention fund or every intervention organization or development organization, because even the numbers you speak of, some people say we're 25 million, some say we're 30 million. We don't really have, a good gauge. So it's a struggle, I must confess. It's a struggle. What we always do is we're plugged into Lagos Bureau of Statistics. We're plugged into other statistical data organizations, and we tend to work with them to understand what that impact looks like. Another thing is we're partnering with LASRA, so Lagos State Residential Association, and it's just saying that who are the official residents in Lagos State that have a LASRA ID card. And for anyone that comes into any of our programs, as a starting point, you have to have a LASRA ID card to benefit from LSCTF program. So those are the kind of things that we do. It's a tough one, I must confess, because it's an ongoing conversation that we have all the time in terms of measuring that impact. But constant monitoring and evaluation and engaging with the statistical bureaus is where we start to have that conversation.
With an agency like yours, it would require a whole lot of, research and learning from advanced community. Can you talk to us about some things LSCTF has learned from, similar communities, countries, and then you tend to work on these things to make our society a better place?
Yes, I think the example I would give for that is our Labor Market Information System, LMIS. So it's a network of like-minded individuals who are focused on labor market as a whole.
Okay.
So we launched this in 2024, and we kind of built on it in 2025. We had public-private dialogues hosted by one of our partners, and it was a place for every player, both as a job seeker, employer of labor, anyone in the education sector, public side, private side, all coming together to understand what are the pain points around labor management and what can we do better. And we're able to leverage on certain case studies which our partners are able to provide in the German community as an example, in Europe as an example, to say, look, there are certain case studies around people not necessarily having a university degree, but with the right support, even if they were to end at secondary school, they can actually get a good enough job from a vocational training point of view to then be able to work. Provided we look at the curriculum in schools, and we actually work hand in hand with the education sector, we can ensure that a lot more people that are coming out to look for work, they're employable, they have the right skills, they have the right attitude to work, and they can actually contribute positively to society. So those are one of the areas that we as thought leaders, we're leveraging on what has worked very well in other communities and even other states in Lagos State, in Nigeria, sorry. I'll give an example. Last year we had Kano come and visit us. We had Ekiti State come and visit us. We had representatives from Ogun State as well. There are quite a few states that came. And the whole idea was to say, we've seen what Lagos is doing. We want to replicate the same in our state. But we also in turn say, you know what, we see what you're doing in your labor market space. What can we do differently in Lagos? So there's that area of synergy, because there's always room for growth and leveraging on what has worked elsewhere and what we can replicate in Lagos.
All right, then. Before
all centered around employment,
yes, exactly. I want to wrap up this conversation without asking this question, because I know that at the center of it all, Lagosians matter the most, right? But then when making decision, What is that thing that you rely on the most? Talking about the leadership of LSATF, what is that thing that you rely on the most in decision making?
So there are two things. Can I say two things? Not one.
Feel free.
The first one is empathy. Literally, for you to work in the development space and for you to actually work in an intervention space, you have to have some level of empathy. And I lead with empathy a lot. I basically feel what you're feeling to be able to make the right decision for you. The second thing is passion. And honestly, I give a shout out to my A team, everyone at LSATF. They're so passionate about finding the right solutions for individuals like themselves. Because if they didn't have that passion, they wouldn't be working for Lagos State government, because you would literally realize it's a lot of work, but it's good and meaningful work. So I would say empathy and passion were the first two things that drive me every day.
Tell me that biggest criticism you have heard about LSATF.
So that's a very interesting question. I think the biggest criticism where people think that you need to know somebody to apply for a program at LSATF, and I keep saying that's the biggest lie. You don't need to know anybody. You need to be a resident of Lagos. That's literally it. You need to be a resident of Lagos, provide your LASTRA ID, ensure you meet our requirements, and apply across board, whether it's on our access to finance programs, access to market, access to infrastructure, access to tech ecosystem, or access to capacity building and skills. Those are the 5 core pillars by which we intervene in Lagos State, but you don't need to know anybody. You just need to apply and meet the requirements.
So lastly, how do you handle this public distrust, skepticism about government-backed funds and all of that?
Just show up and be transparent. There's no question. I'm stopped every day. People ask me a question. I show up, I answer the questions, and I'm being consistent. So I just keep people saying, just be transparent. There's nothing we're hiding. And I think you'd find that over time, people are beginning to trust more because they see that any question you're being asked, you answer. And I keep saying we don't always get it right. We make mistakes. But what's important is how we address them. And we are transparent enough to highlight what the fix has been. A lot more transparency. We will go a long way as humans, whether on the public side or the private side. But human first, after all.
Absolutely. Your parting shot on the show this morning, what would you be saying to Lagosians as we start this new year with LSATF?
I will say show up, show out, seek for help. No man is an island. So it's important you show up and show out and seek for help.
All right, show up and no man is an island. You should seek for help.
No man or woman.
No man or woman. Okay, so you should seek for help if you need it, right? You shouldn't keep quiet. A sealed mouth is a sealed destiny. Don't forget, you really need to have that at the back of your mind. I must say a very big thank you to you for coming on the program this morning. I have been speaking with the Executive Secretary of LSATF. That's the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Feishayo Alayande has been my guest on the show. Once again, thank you so much for coming on the program. All right, this is where I wrap things up today on the program. Again, this program has been brought to you courtesy the Lagos State Employment Trust Fund. Massive shout out to Oluremi Aluko and the entire social media team. Big ups to Victor Terry. Our executive producer is Tayo Akonle. My name is Taiwo Baruwa. The program makes a return next week, Wednesday at 10:15. Enjoy the rest of your day. Lagos.
Thank you.